Good evening. I'd like to welcome you all to the County Standing Committee on Finance and Rules. At this time, we're going to have a few presentations, which is always interesting. Starting off with the Jefferson County Historical Society, I'd like to introduce the Executive Director, Jordan Walker.
I don't have to talk right into it. You can hear me, right? Okay, great. Well, thank you for the introduction and the opportunity to speak with you a little bit about the Jefferson County Historical Society. Has everyone been to the Jefferson County Historical Society in the last 10 years? Yeah, I get that look a lot. That's what happens. Well, the Paddock Mansion's right on Washington Street, across from the library. And part of who we are, I think, has often been confusing to some people, but we are a museum, we are an archive, we are a repository to save Jefferson County's history, to record it and document our local history. We have been a historical society since 1886 and formally formed into a museum in 1922. And since then, we have gathered almost over 100,000 artifacts, and it's an ongoing, growing collection that continues to elude us with its splendor and chaos at the same time. So it's a lot of items to take care of, and it's a big job, but we love it. It's beautiful, and it's something that we really enjoy sharing with our community. The big part of what we do is we present Jefferson County's history from our notable citizenry right down to businesses. We have American Indian archaeology displays, Civil War life and weaponry, as well as the Black River water power. And we also have a number of changing exhibits. We change everywhere from 3 to 6 months, and we do a variety of different exhibits. We partner with other organizations. We did a very large one on women's suffrage 2 years ago with the American Association of University Women, and we try to do that each year. Coming up, we have Catherine Quenser Burns holding her family's notable The Raffle painting, and we're going to have a very large exhibit around B.B. Taggart and the Taggart family for their paintings that are very notable. We have several of those. On our property, we also have a historic barn, a log cabin from the 1600s that was moved to the property from Rozier. And we also have a schoolhouse that came from Theresa that was also moved from the property to the property and put back together. These are very important staples to the museum. We also have an educator through BOCES. She uses these areas often, and this is a big part of our program, is interactivity. We also do weddings on the property, which is part of how we sustain our income, along with receptions. We have also tried to step more into haunted experiences. So we're trying to be creative. Museums are kind of limited in how many times you can find a way to sustain income, and this is becoming a little bit more of an option for us. Museums are, and especially because we're in a mansion, we're more focused now on being a location as well as a museum, so people can rent and use the facility throughout the community. We have several events. People hold their board meetings there, all sorts of things. We have a number of events throughout the year that also help to sustain the museum. We are very creative. We have committees that come up with these new events every year just to try to get people through the door and to remind people why history is important. It is a battle against other nonprofits to constantly try to convince people why your message is just as enlightening and cherishable, and it's really hard to make history seem as appealing as puppies. So it's a difficult track, but we try our best, and for those of us that have a passion for history, it's worth the time and the effort. We do a history and genealogy fair. That's grown into quite a large event. We also had a Charles Dickens event just this past year. That was fun. We all dressed up, and we had full actors that stayed in character. It was like a mini Renaissance festival, and they acted from A Christmas Carol. And we had a full Christmas Carol dinner, and it was a lot of fun. We had a big turnout for that. And we also do a teddy bear tea party. These are all for little kids. We do it in our garden. So we have an event almost every other month. So I have my degree in history, and essentially I'm an event coordinator. So, but you have to do what you do. June 8th, we are doing a very large event that we haven't done in almost 10 years. It's Heritage Days with a classic car show. We're holding that right on the property, and we are using the large parking lot out back, and we're doing it with Highway Legends. We'll have antique fire engines from the TI hose haulers, and Fort Drum is partnering with us as well. The USO band will be there, and they're also bringing military vehicles and having a static exhibit for use as well. This is free and open to the public and to the community. So I want it to be known that we try as often as we can, even though we do try to make an additional income, we feel obligated to give the community an opportunity to attend free cultural events. Not everybody can afford to come to something that has a $30 ticket on it. So we have to offset each of our events. One is paid, usually the next one's not. And that's how we run our business. I wanted to put this up here just so you have a little bit of a visual understanding of all these events that we do. It's only 15% of our income. Yet our cash flow is based on constantly doing that. Our grants, including the grants that we've received from Jefferson County, it only departs from 15% of our income, and most of it comes from membership, which is vastly declining. That seems like a scary, daunting figure. We usually have a dark, glooming financial figure over our head at the museum, and it's no surprise for anyone that's read our budget. But we have a nice light at the end of the tunnel coming up. We received $1.1 million in grant funding in the last year and a half. I don't want this to seem like we are now wealthy and running around with money shooting out of our ears. This is all for renovations that will help us in the future hopefully come up with a more sustainable model so we don't have to necessarily beg for money each year, but we are very much dependent on the help that we've always received so that we can finish projects like a new roof, new elevator, and to also additionally put in new exhibit technology that's part of the DRI grant funding we received, the downtown revitalization. So, and that'll take till the end of probably next year to finish completely. But once that's done, we have an entirely new museum on our hands. We will have a new interior. We will have a completely different interactive experience for people that are coming to the museum. It is a very exciting time for us, and it's an opportunity to leverage a lot more partnerships and a lot more income for the museum. We have to do it properly, and we have to kind of do it slowly with a strategic plan. But more than any other time, we will actually be able to do something much more positive and productive other than hold our hands out. We will hopefully be able to do that a little bit less, hopefully within the next 3 to 5 years is our vision. Okay, that's it for me. Thank you.
Every time I get up to walk anywhere, I realize I'm an old man. Thanks for reminding me. Do we have any questions for the Executive Director? Legislator Fitzpatrick?
Before questions, I'd like to give a great plug. I was on the board many years ago, and then they pulled me back. And Jordan Walker Rodriguez is the best thing that's ever happened to the Historical Society. You see articles in the newspaper all the time. You hear stories on the radio. She's brought forth an energy, and I think that the membership is going to grow. A lot of people who haven't participated have come back, and what you do is an amazing job. And one of the best things that I love doing as a volunteer, and I volunteer for a lot of it, is the Brookside Cemetery. I've learned so much about the history of Brookside Cemetery, having to learn about those who passed away and were buried there, and the history of Watertown, because I had to study it in order to allow myself to, with the program, to give it to the other people, to share with them. And if it wasn't for you, I'm not sure it would be open anymore, and it would be such a great loss to our Jefferson County, because what you are doing is opening doors to what our history is all over again, and it's great. It's enlightening, and I'm very proud that you were doing the job that you were doing, and thank you.
Well, thank you very much. May I respond?
Oh, certainly.
Well, thank you. Just wonderful hearing that. No, it reminded me to bring up that So doing the Brookside Cemetery tour was something that I realized that we needed to do because we often just stuck within our comfort zone of Watertown. We're the Jefferson County Historical Society, and I noticed that almost everything we did was right in Watertown and on Watertown. So our big goal, on top of finishing the building, is to start serving as a location for other museums throughout Jefferson County to turn to for resources. I'm already working with Lewis County and helping them do a similar DRI funding grant for their roof. They've been turning to me, and just because if one local historical society, even another county, fails, that just makes it even harder for the rest of us. One part of the state seeing that not being justified as getting funding doesn't look good for the next county over. And I truly believe that. And I think if the other smaller museums in Jefferson County had a place to turn, who are all equally struggling to sustain any kind of volunteers, some of them have one staff member if they're lucky, and I would really like the Historical Society to become the resource for them to learn how to get their own grants and to also turn to just for any kind of advice and development.
Anything further? Legislator Doldo.
Thank you. Just a question for you, because I asked this question. There's a lot of organizations in this town. I do own a retail store. We never have people come around and leave brochures for things like yours in this area and other that I think would be a huge aspect. We do get tours in all the time, and then any store I go to, I see a lack of information or pamphlets as to what there is in the area. Do you guys have anything out there? Are you looking at doing something?
We have them. We've really leveraged social media as our way of getting the word out just to save on printing expenses. That doesn't mean that we can't print brochures. We just don't do as many maybe as a large commercial organization does. When it comes down to the budget process, sometimes we just are as focused on printing a lot of brochures. But we do partner with St. Lawrence International Partnership. It's the St. Lawrence River Valley Partnership, and we get almost 20,000 brochures down the I-81 corridor. We're listed as part of that organization, so that's where we rely on, whereas a part of a membership, so it's more affordable to put them out that way. But I agree, we should put more paperwork in our local places, especially here, so we can definitely focus on doing that.
Yeah, not only just you, if I may. Okay. Not only just you, I mean, but I know the TI Council's here tonight, and I think everybody needs to get together and push this area and work together, and they probably have some great pricing and ideas, and it's tougher for people like you just to do it on your own, and when you get a big organization like them, I think it would be. I
learned how to make a really pretty brochure on Publisher. I just don't know if I'm ready to share it to the whole
And you
world,
are right, puppies are cute. I have 4 dogs, so
yeah.
I am a sucker for puppies.
Any other questions? I would like to say I'm a former public school teacher, and the field trips to the Historical Society were always great. I'm not sure if you're still doing that, but the kids loved it, and where we were coming from was one end of the county, so they come to Watertown. It's a big deal. I mean, if you start in Watertown, you don't see the same excitement because you live here, but if you get on a bus and drive 30 miles, it's a big deal, and always memorable. So.
Well, thank you. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Our next presentation will be from the Jefferson County Fair, and we have Fair Manager Pam Shelmadine. Nice you brought your bodyguards. That was good.
Thank you for asking us here. I also brought my colleagues Larry Burnett, our treasurer, and Bob Simpson, our fair president, and Bob is going to give the presentation for us tonight. Thank you.
Just to answer the question I know you all have, I tripped over a rug in the bathroom yesterday morning and twisted my right knee, but I'm doing better because yesterday at this time I was using crutches. So, anyway, thank you for inviting us to speak to you tonight. First, I want to thank you all for all of the continued support the fair has received from the county for the past 200 plus years. because you know we're the oldest continuously operating fair in the nation. And I can definitely say that without your support, or the support we've received from Jefferson County, there would not be a Jefferson County Fair. The mission of a county fair is to showcase agriculture. And while how we do that today has changed some with the evolution of agriculture, it is still our basic function. You know, I hear people say that we're not an agricultural fair. Go to the Lewis County Fair. They're a real agricultural fair. But I will tell you that we have about double or a little bit more than double the number of animal exhibits at our fair than there are at the Lewis County Fair. And that's been the case for a number of years. Fairs are governed by the rules of New York State Department of Agriculture and Markets as to what we can and cannot do. But I will tell you that every other state regulatory agency that inspects something inspects us at the fair. And many of these require various permits and things for us to operate. The Jefferson County Agricultural Society is a not-for-profit corporation in the true sense of the word. Our goal is not to raise money for the advancement of the organization, but to take in enough money each year to put on a successful, enjoyable, and entertaining fair for not only our agricultural departments, but for all of our exhibitors and the 60,000 plus attendees that visit us each year. And to do that and end the year in the black. Without the help we receive from Jefferson County, that would not be possible. And rain really hurts. We're getting concerned about this year, like as you all are. Okay. I want to share with you some of the challenges we face each year at the fair. Since we don't own the fairgrounds, we pretty much have to make enough during the fair to make ends meet for the entire year. I'll give you some examples of some of these expenses, which of course keep going up. Our insurance premiums run about $24,000 a year for general liability and workers' compensation. And as far as the workers' comp is concerned, we're charged not only for coverage of all of our employees and volunteers, we're also charged for coverage for any entertainers who do not have proof of workers' comp coverage, as well as all the judges for the hundreds of contests held each year at the fair. And we pay the same rate for an entry clerk or someone playing a guitar as we do for a grounds worker, even though the hazard is much less. Prizes are given in every one of the over 100 contests and competitions in both the open class, which is open to everyone, in all of the various departments, whether they're animals or arts and crafts, flowers, vegetables, things like that. The open class is open to everyone, and we also have a junior class, which is open to our youth, consisting mainly of 4-H. And the number of exhibits entries in both of those classes is pretty close to the same each year. These prizes that we give out consist of ribbons as well as cash premiums. Each year we give out over $15,000 in cash premiums, of which New York State reimburses us from 1/2 to 2/3, depending on the amount included in the state budget, and that's kind of iffy every year. For the past few years, it's not been included in the governor's budget, and we've had to fight to get it restored by the state legislature. So we might have it, we might not have it. It's in this year's budget. So, while the vast majority of the people that put on the fair are volunteers each year, we still have a payroll of nearly $50,000. This includes mainly our grounds employees, which must remove all of the items from storage each year and set everything up for the fair. And the vast majority of that part is to set up our livestock and dairy cattle exhibits. It also includes tram drivers as well as some security personnel. And in addition to that, we have to pay all of the judges that judge all of these hundreds of contests and competitions. And that often includes travel expenses and some overnight lodging. And with the continued increase in minimum wage, that expense, of course, goes up every year. Again, since we don't own the fairgrounds, we have to erect tents every year for all of our animal and other exhibits, and that cost is a little over $15,000 a year. electric, gas, phone, internet for our buildings. The 2 buildings we own on the fairgrounds runs about $20,000 a year. And something as small as trash disposal, including the disposal of trash generated at the fair as well as animal race, runs about $7,000 a year. Those are just operating expenses. We have numerous other expenses, including entertainment, advertising, things like that. So how do we try to make enough money to cover these costs? Well, number one is the commission from carnival ride ticket sales, as well as space rental from various vendors. That provides the largest portion of our income. Sponsorships and advertising in our fair publication, as well as help from the towns of Luray and Watertown. And it's the help we get from you. We also get some seasonal rental from our exhibition hall in off-season, but again, because we don't own the fairgrounds, we don't get a chance to generate a lot of other income. But we don't have any old fair buildings to maintain either, so that may be a wash. But I also want to point out the fair has a huge economic effect on the county. Fair attendees and exhibitors, as well as carnival employees, spend money at businesses, hotels, and things in the area. Food service vendors, such as Renzi's, Sam's Club, Coke and Pepsi, bread companies, and propane dealers supply our food vendors with all the products they need. The carnival alone purchases about 1,000 gallons of diesel fuel every day to power their generators. All of the carnival vehicles purchase fuel before leaving the area and have vehicle and tire repairs made while they're here. Some have even purchased vehicles from local car dealers while they're here. So in closing, I just want to again thank Jefferson County for your years of support of the Jefferson County Fair, not only with your monetary support each year, but for your support through assistance and services. And I'll try to name some of them. County Administration, County Highway, the Jefferson County Sheriff's Office, the Office of Fire and Emergency Management, Jefferson Community College, the County Airport, Jefferson County Public Health. All of those agencies, while they don't necessarily give us cash, help us out in various other ways, and we truly appreciate it. So thank you for inviting us to attend your meeting.
Thank you for the presentation. Would you be the one taking the questions?
Depends on the question. That's why I have 3 people here.
Okay. Do we have questions? Legislator Fitzpatrick.
Bob, when you mentioned earlier that you're reimbursed by the state, maybe sometimes half, sometimes 2/3, and like you say, the operative word would be sometimes. For the prizes, what do they reimburse you for again when they do?
Larry. Larry's our treasurer, and he probably is better.
Would you be willing to come to the microphone so everybody can hear?
The reimbursement for that Bob referred to is premium money, and that is money that we pay to exhibitors for exhibiting that are judged and awarded prizes. And those prize amounts are governed by the state. We can only pay X amount for a premium based on what the state tells us we can. And so when we pay that out, then they reimburse us a portion of that. It's not always full reimbursement. It's like Bob said, it could be half of what we pay out or 2/3. And we never know from year to year what we're going to get back, but we do get reimbursed some.
Did I misunderstand you? You didn't get reimbursed yet for last year?
No, we did
You
get reimbursed for last year.
Okay.
Yes.
It's in the budget, but you're not always promised the amount that might be put in the budget.
Well, the budget, what's in the budget this year is for this year's fair. Whatever we pay out is already budgeted, so we will get some back.
Some back.
We don't know what that
Don't
is,
know what
but,
it is. That's-
yeah. And we don't know what we're paying out either.
oh, okay. Thank you.
And that amount could be from as little as a couple of dollars for someone who exhibited a piece of artwork to a few $100s for someone who brought 15 or 20 prize cattle to the fair. So it varies based on the category, and there's just, if you looked at the category, there's just hundreds and hundreds of competitions that people can enter things in, and we certainly don't have entries in every single category.
Any further questions? It's always an interesting activity at the fair. I've been to a couple of the milking, legislator Peck manages to corral us into doing milking, and I watched people donate. I can't remember what it was. It was a cutting board, and then they would donate it back. I mean, it was an amazing amount of generosity I saw displayed, and it was...
So that's when they have the auction at the milking. That raises money for, who's that for, Pam? 4-H, for the 4-H. Another interesting part on that, too, is that I know you know, cooperative extension is a big part of what the county does, also a big part of the fair, but a lot of this premium dollars and other expenses that we have are for the 4-H part of the fair, which, as I said, you have the open class and then the junior fair, and they're about equal in size as far as numbers of exhibits and contests and things.
It's always impressive. Anything further? Thank you very much.
Hope to see you at the fair.
Our last presentation this evening is from the Thousand Islands International Tourism Council, and we have Executive Director Corey Fram.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you to the members of the committee. I'm going to get this opened back up, and hopefully everything's still there. Great, I think we're all set. So my name is Corey Fram, and I started as director of the Thousand Islands International Tourism Council back in December. Some of you I know, some of you I don't. For the previous 10 years, I was employed at the council doing much of the marketing programs that we'll get into a little bit today. Since this is my first time to address at least a portion of this body, I kind of want to give you a little bit of just my philosophy before I jump into our presentation. That I believe that our role at the Tourism Council is to support the work that's being done by our tourism businesses in our region. To me, tourism are the ticket takers, the charter fishing captains, the folks doing the serving. To me, that's tourism in our county. And our job is to assist them, support them with expertise and experience. We have decades of experience in the office. We're able to go to learn about destination marketing, what the current trends are. Our job is to support those folks, such as at the Historical Society and at the fair. That's my attitude toward it. We're coordinators, to kind of touch on something that Legislator Doldo brought up earlier. I assure you, if you've ever gotten somebody on the wine industry and somebody on the brewery industry to work together on a project, it's like getting two fishing guides to work together on something. You truly earn your stripes as a coordinator that day. They're starting to see the light. What I want to do today is just kind of run through a little bit, kind of a quick presentation, as Jordan kind of did, similar to here's who we are, what we do, how we're doing it, and why we're doing it. I'll stand here so I can do this easier. So what do? This is pretty much us. This is what we do. Our job as a destination marketing organization is to inspire people to make our home right here in Jefferson County part of their life story. And when I say tourism travel, I'm talking about the really important stuff. Anytime we get a group of people together and we say, think of your fondest childhood memory, it typically gets back to doing the things that they enjoy with the people who mean the most to them. And that's what we're doing in the travel and tourism business. We're trying to get them to have those experiences where we live here. And sometimes you're here for an event such as weddings, sometimes you're here to enjoy our recreation, our products, any time of year from all over the world. I want to point out really quick, these photos are not ours. These photos are by people who actually showed up here in our region to vacation. None of these are the tourism promotion photos that you would see that are carefully calculated. These are folks who came here and decided, I want to share this experience with the people who mean the most to me online, socially. This is what they're talking about. So, these folks, as you can see, came for a variety of different reasons. That's the challenge of our job. How do we talk to people who want to come here, who want to enjoy our region, who want to spend money here, knowing that they all have different interests? We have to find the most cost-effective way to do it. We don't have an endless budget. Our budget for 2019 is a little under $1.4 million. Relative to our peers around New York State, we're in about the bottom half. We're at the top of the bottom half. We're in about the bottom half of what a tourism office, for a regional tourism office would have around New York State. To throw some numbers out here a little bit, 2017 is the last year that we have spending figures from Tourism Economics. There's a report from New York State every year. They break it down by each of the 11 vacation regions, and we can drill down to how much visitor spending was in Jefferson County. 2017 visitor spending in Jefferson County totaled $260 million according to Tourism Economics. To kind of place that for you, I looked it up. The 2017 adopted budget by this body was around that 248 figure. It was like 248,769. So you look at visitor spending around $260 million in 2017, and the job of this body to do all the things that we need, highways and social services, it's a comparable amount. That's what we do, and now the important part is how we do it. Through research and identifying the types of geographic markets that feed us our visitors, talking about the behaviors that people who want to visit here, we identify people we want to reach out to. So we advertise, and I'm going to run through this stuff really quick. So in a given year, we might decide that we're going to be doing broadcast television commercials. Last year, we ran 7,700 30-second TV spots. We, of course, do digital advertising, and it takes many forms. In a given year, we might run almost 20 million digital spots. They're not that expensive. You buy them by the thousand. Digital ads can take just about any form you can imagine nowadays. If you mistakenly click on something, we're going to chase you around the internet. It's kind of like when you buy a pair of shoes and then that shoe ad keeps showing up. We do that. It's annoying, but it's effective. That's why we do that kind of stuff. To give you an idea, we're pretty savvy for what our budget allows. We're able to kind of take on some new techniques. I mentioned TV commercials, 7,700. Last year we ran 500,000 in-app TV spots. So if you think of things like Hulu, Roku, whether you're on the CBS app, we can now run our TV spots through that, trying to stay in front of people the way that they're actually consuming media. A study came out the end of the year last year that said that in America, more than 90% of people are using these things now to plan their trips. It at least has some role is looking at your phone. So we've got to run ads there too. These particular things happen in a campaign that we run every year. It's been in existence since before I got there. Runs around $200,000+ in a media buy. We're able to run that program because we have programmatic funding from this body, which allows us to make application to New York State for what we call a matching funds program. We're able to show that we're financially solvent, make application with a plan, we receive funding from New York, and then we can do a program like this where we take around $85,000 in New York State money, and we go out and we're able to raise $120,000+ on the private side. And so what we do is we go to our communities, our operators, our attractions, our hotels, and say, look, you can be part of this rotation, and that's how we build this up to 220. It's a real easy example of how taking some seed money here, leveraging New York State dollars, and then getting a private investment. That's a really nice 85 to 120 because that's a very mature program. Not all of our programs run with the private side being that much higher. Print is not dead. We still do a lot of print advertising. It's mostly niche kind of stuff, fishing, boating. Sometimes it's for facilities such as the airport. Sometimes it's in languages other than English. None of this stuff happens in a vacuum. We get opportunities through I Love New York, through regional programs where we can pair up and say, you know what, this might be an opportunity for us given some of the statistics we've seen. Aside from advertising, we're promoters. What that is up there is a photo of somebody sitting at a booth at a travel and vacation show saying, come visit us. We still do 5 or 6 of these shows every year. They're incredibly expensive. You've got to not only pay for the booth space, the materials to display, the materials to give away, you've got to have somebody on the road for anywhere from 4 to 9 days. But we do it because Marketing 101 tells us that the best way to get somebody to do something is to get a recommendation from somebody you trust. Now, if I'm headed on vacation and I know that Legislator Cantwell has already been there and he tells me he's been there, he starts saying, you know, I went there and these are the types of places I went, you're really going to love it, I'm going to look into those. Short of having somebody we know, it's having a trustworthy source. So we attend these kind of shows. We go to places like Toronto, Erie, Buffalo. In the past, we've done Washington, D.C., Massachusetts. We're part of an organization that is our county along the southern shore of Lake Ontario all the way over to Niagara that promotes fishing. They do 6 fishing shows a year: Ohio, New York, New Jersey, Pennsylvania, Massachusetts. They attend 6 shows. They pass out our tourism literature. They keep up a website about fishing in New York. Our investment on that group is $3,500 for the year. It's a pretty good deal for what we get out of them. Aside from being your official tourism promotion agency, we are the contact for Empire State Development. I love New York. So whenever we get a Long Island Railroad poster from Rock Island Lighthouse, we've usually had a hand in that. That was 2016. That was a hot and sunny summer, and that was the one day it rained. That poor child I think he changed his shirt twice. When there is a billboard on the side of MSG, Boat Castle, we've had a hand in that. We're also the folks who call up ESD and say, look, this TV program's great. We need to get in this. I know you're spending 7 figures on TV. You've got to include us. And they say, well, okay, we got the fall coming up. What do you got? Well, we got one of our communities that folks got together, and they've got an event. It's really cool. It's the 3rd Saturday in October, so it's after Columbus Day. It's stretching into the shoulder seasons, and it's fall-oriented, and there's barbecue, and then they build these catapult trebuchet things, and they throw pumpkins into the water. And they go, well, what do you mean? I go, yeah, we build these things, they throw the pumpkins in the water. They go, that we can work with. That was in July. So for August, we got a hold of the local Chamber of Commerce. We said, look, get a hold of the people that organize this event. We've got them hooked. We need to get corn stalks down at the pavilion. We need to get people in sweaters. We need to get attractive people in sweaters, scarves. We need somebody to haul out one of those things we need to throw the pumpkins in because we're going to make it look like fall. And then that TV spot ran everywhere, and we got to play a small spot in what was estimated to be 10,000 people showing up at one of our communities the 3rd Saturday in October in 2017. Just a small part of what we do. Really quickly, else for promotions, that alphabet soup you see at the bottom, ABA, NTA, those kind of things, it's the American Bus Association, Pennsylvania Bus, Travel Alliance Partnerships. There's also the Empire State Society of Association Executives, or SA. We have an active program for bus groups, meeting planners, those kind of folks. We do that to supplement the leisure market stuff that I've been talking about. We're highly seasonal here. We have stop points in our schedule, and being able to go after group business is a way to kind of supplement it and fill in those gaps a little bit. That's a relationship business. We send people on the road to go to these folks, actually pitch coming to our area. We can't sell anything. We can actually sell passes or tickets. So what we often do is give our businesses the opportunity to come with us. We'll pay, for the reduced rate, and we can set up booths for anybody who wants to go to that particular show. If they don't, sometimes we set up a system where we distribute the leads that we get from that show evenly. We're also creators. Publications. We still print. We still print a regional guide in excess of 250,000 copies. That's a lot of copies. And all but probably less than 1% of them head out the door outside of this county. That's through paid highway contractors, distributors. We distribute them at shows. We still mail a guide to somebody if they call and ask us for it. It's expensive. We've had to come up with creative ways to do that. But if somebody takes the time to pick up the phone and say, I really want to go there, can you send me the information? That's a lead we don't want to give up. That's a very good hook. It goes beyond that piece. We also do some niche pieces, fishing and hunting, agriculture, events. There's a few little extra publications that we're doing. Of course, everything is digital these days, so we have, like everybody else, we've got a website. This is basically the portal to the world for us. Last year, 770,000 sessions on that website. That has community profiles, that gives us opportunity to provide free listings for tourism businesses. Back when I started 10 years ago, just about everybody in our database could get into a printed guide. That's gotten harder as we try and make that project fairly cost efficient. So we provide free listings, which is essentially where most of our businesses want to be, is online. Anyway, some of us tell them that the greatest amount of traffic they get to their website is from our site. And we can give that away for free because in digital we're not paying for the space. We keep a few additional websites as well, such as the airport. We do one for meeting planners. We do one for tour planners. We have quite a few digital properties. Beyond that, we're also in the business of creating a lot of video content these days. 2017, the water on Lake Ontario and St. Lawrence River was high, not unlike this year. And so we saw that as an opportunity in 2018. to how can we make application to New York State and say, look, we need additional marketing dollars because we had a tough year. So we partnered with Oswego County, St. Lawrence County, made a regional application for $136,000 on a $200,000 program. And what that allowed us to do was tell people we're open, we're back, life is okay. We went out and collected assets, such as this video series that we did around all of our lake and river properties and some interior as well. That's the kind of a case where it's an example where it's nice to be able to go after that stuff. But as you probably know, in dealing with New York State, that's a reimbursement program. So when we get the counties together, we have the staffing ability to act as the bank holder and paperwork holder on those things. That's a $200,000 program that we've got to then go out and seek the reimbursement from New York for. A lot of great stuff, and given what's going on right now, we're already repurposing a lot of those materials. I was kind of hoping that we wouldn't need to go back to the well so soon. We're also in the publicity game. People don't want to just take our word for it, so we work with established media. We host them, we give them pointers, we keep a library. So for the example, the photo on the right there, that's Car and Travel, AAA magazine, new editor. I met her, she said, I got to get an edition out next week. Your destination sounds amazing. I go, we got the photos, we'll illustrate it for you, no problem. To be able to afford these kind of things, if we were to advertise, would be far beyond, to the point of frankly destroying our budget. We've been lucky, a few years back, I think some of you heard me before, New York Times called, said we're doing an insert Sunday travel section on island travel. And do you guys have any photos? Because you're going to be included. And I said, yeah, we got photos, and I'm sitting in the car, and I get on the tablet, and I hit a couple buttons, and off the photos go. We got cover of the Sunday travel edition of New York Times, 2 half-page photos on the inside. Math on advertising for that would have been over $250,000. Cost us nothing other than having some photos in our library. So we keep an active library stock. It's available for non-commercial purposes really to any organization. We don't work with just traditional media. I threw up a photo of somebody, that is an Instagram page. That gentleman showed up, took that picture, and 37,000 people took the time to click like, and a couple thousand wrote him questions about it. Because he was tied into the right networks, the account at Nature picked it up to their audience of 2.2 million people, and the phone calls started coming and coming, and just for the price of keeping our hand in the air with I Love New York and saying, send this guy our way. We're also opportunistic. Our neighbors to the northeast of us have done a pretty good job trying to land some fishing tournaments. So we try to be opportunistic, and we do things where we say, look, Timmy Horton, who is really his name, you have a fishing show. We hear you're going to be up here for the tournament. If things don't go well for you and you're out of the tournament the last 2 days, you're going to be in the area, you want to fish around here and tape your TV show here? I mean, I'm not going to be able to pay you to come up from Alabama, but since you're here anyway, it'd be really cool if you maybe, hit our lake shore, hit our river shore, got in front of our destination a little bit. And of course, we keep all the social media platforms you would imagine, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, because that's where so much of the conversation is happening nowadays. Particularly when we talk about things that are topical, like this high water issue, that's where a lot of the conversation is playing out. But of course, we still do email marketing. That we had 40,000 subscribers. And we hired somebody new in January, and I said, okay, we have 40,000 subscribers, and we write these nice little emails up. We send them out to 40,000 people, and none of them read it. I don't read my emails, okay. So I said, okay, what we need to do is cut that list and cull the list down to the 10 to 15,000 people who actually want our stuff. So it's kind of switching marketing a little bit. That's the way we've been going in destination marketing, and all marketing is a little bit more talking focused to the folks we can who really are engaged with us. It's expensive. It takes staff time. But we're finding the results are better. Last slide. So why do we do this? 2017. Last year that we have results for, information for rather, from Tourism Economics, 3,200 people in Jefferson County directly employed in travel and tourism jobs, which is about 8% of the county workforce, getting paid somewhere close to $73 million. It's not the best paying jobs in the world. It comes to the low 20s in an annual. It's only about 4.5% of our labor income for 2017. But what travel and tourism does, it's often, in this county, people's first experience in the workforce. And I'm referring to those folks right up there in front of the I Love New York sign. Here in Jefferson County, often travel and tourism is your first job. It also is providing employment to our active retirees. Again, wages are not as high as some other industries. The last thing that it does on the employment side is it employs folks who otherwise may not have been able to find a job. And when I talk about things, and I think about things here rather at the county level of safety net programs and social services and law enforcement, there are opportunities out there for people who to get trained and have an entry-level position in tourism and travel. Those jobs are out there and available. A little bit more than just the direct stuff. Indirect, if I can touch on it really quickly, we start factoring in indirect and induced employment around Jefferson County. That number of 3,200 jumps up to over 4,500. And suddenly we're at 11% of the county workforce, which is about on par for what most of New York State and really the U.S. is for travel and tourism jobs. About 9 to 10%. Jefferson County are a little bit higher once you include indirect and induced, about 11%. Those wages jump up to roughly $120,000, and now we're at 7+% of labor income for the county. Beyond just employment, taxes. 2017, those $260 million in visitor spending contributed $18.5 million in local taxes. You add in another 14.3 or so in state taxes. And I tried to get a sense of it, okay, so we're at $18.5 million in local taxes generated by tourism travel. The county tax levy in 2017 was just a share under 56 million. It was like 55.8, 55.9. So about a third, just so you get some size, an idea on size. And looking at the local tax numbers, Tourism Economics tells us that Jefferson County tourism travel contributed to savings of about $754 per household. Being really honest, that's almost an installment of my county and town taxes. I make 3 payments sometimes. I really don't want to make 4. 4 would cause my family and I to adjust a few things. So tourism matters. And when I talk about tourism as an economic driver, that's the example I really want people to understand. The last thing travel and tourism does, it's hard to measure, and it's quality of life. What tourism travel does, it gives us attractions, activities, places to go with your kids for ice cream, concerts to go to. It gives the local residents a greater quality of life, and it leads to things such as second homes. There are stories out there of people who come up, who visit, whether it's for an event or for some sort of just vacation, no reason. They fall in love with our area. They build a camp on one of the inland lakes or out on the lake or the water. Somebody a lot smarter than me came up with a saying, I love it. It says if you develop a place where people want to visit, you've made a place where people have to work. If you have a place where people have to work, well, now you've got a place where people want to live. And if you have a place where people are living and working and care about their community, those are the kinds of places people want to visit. And it's especially true for that group in the I Love New York photo there. Those are students from Thousand Island Central. When you look at studies on millennials and the generation after, what do they want? They want amenities. They want a place that they can do things. They want a place that is home, that is a place of real value and sustainable, but they want a place where they can have the amenities. And that's where you get into tourism, travel, activities, attractions. Tourism matters. That's my information. I didn't hand out stuff only because you probably sense I love talking about tourism and travel. Any of you want to get a hold of me, please do. And I added this last little note because really, as you know, we have 3 stakeholders, the Thousand Island Bridge Authority, the Federal Bridge Corporation on the Canadian side, and Jefferson County through the collection of occupancy tax for our programming. None of this could be done, none of the support that we give our tourism businesses could be done without this body. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. It was an excellent presentation. I think we're in good hands with you and at the leadership. Do we have any questions for Corey? Legislator Nembawani.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I, too, greatly enjoyed your presentation. I enjoyed yours, Jordan, and Mr. Simpson's, too. I didn't talk before, but...
Oh, they left.
But for our body here, what, of course, I'd love to hear is how, the return on the investment, which is, whether it be cultural or, economic dollars is always good to hear. One of the questions I had, well, first of all, I like how the focus is to get the military community up to Boat Castle, get them up in Alex Bay on the river and the lakes, et cetera. But with 8 million people in the New York City area, from the governor, I know it's important for him to promote upstate and New York in general as tourism. And from an agricultural standpoint, it's about how do you get those people to get their fruits and vegetables down there to market and restaurants and things like that. But there was talk at one time about, him trying to focus on that community down there, being able to recreate and play in upstate New York, whether it be instead of them flying off to Nantucket or other states and stuff, maybe they go to Niagara Falls, or maybe there could be, access to get these people involved up here. Is that a focus of, you got your pulse on the tourism there. Is there talks from that in the executive or no?
Absolutely. Our main contact is Empire State Development's I Love New York. And really the crutch of the I Love New York program is it's an upstate program for the most part. And their major market, the target, is New York City. And we do a number of events down there, whether it's showing up and meeting with media. As I mentioned, the car and travel story, that was where I was down in the city for a night, getting to meet with media to talk to us. There are much of the digital is being displayed in New York City. What we find is we're a drive market, and not a lot of New Yorkers drive. Doesn't mean they can't, it's they don't. So we've had to get creative. I think where they've had some of their greatest success as a state is along the Amtrak route because of the public transportation. That last mile is a challenge for us. It's a challenge for us also when we talk about the airport. We've got service here from Philadelphia. Service from somewhere in the metro area, that's something we could probably work with, like we try to do with Philadelphia. But New York is a big market, it's an expensive market. We probably 3 or 4 years ago started including New York City actively in the program that I described earlier with regards to the digital. We'll probably never be able to afford New York City on broadcast, but we can afford it digitally. And we've been growing that just out of our office the last few years. It started at a few $1,000s here, and what we've been able to do is convince some of our leading tourism businesses to kind of go with us down there. It's kind of sticking the toe in the water, trying to supplement what New York State is doing. It's a challenge. We're not giving up, and unfortunately, I can still find people in Syracuse who have no idea that the Black River is here and that there's Class 3 and 4 whitewater, or that there's a castle a little bit further up the highway. So we can do what we can in New York City and hope for the best. Our New York City numbers are good due to volume. There's interest. It's getting that conversion. That's the tough part. My web stats will show you New York City is the top destination for looking for us. Conversion is the difficult part. Thank you.
Anything further? Legislator Doldo.
Thank you. Thank you for coming. I learned a lot tonight. I know we have to especially thank the hotel owners, because without them and their investment in the community, that bed tax money wouldn't be there. As far as the media advertising and stuff like that, you probably have a huge buying power that would help some of these, like the fair and historical society and stuff. And I'm just curious, because we do give to them also, that they would be better off, trying to partner with you to get the most bang for their buck, which would, also help us direct more money to you because it's helping them. Just curious, what your thoughts are. We have the fair that's here. We have DPAO. I don't know if you do anything with either one of them in your marketing strategies or not, but I think they bring some huge dollars to this area, and was kind of curious what you do for them.
Yeah, and I tried to give you kind of the quick explanation. Our strategy has been, like I said, to bring folks together and to essentially do that underwriting, so to speak. Can we, with some expertise, some experience, working with perhaps an agency of marketing experts that, if we may be on a particular strategy we need help with, can we come up with a program that we say, okay, to Jordan or whomever a buy-in one of our partners might be, for $3,000 you can be in this program, but the total buy is $220,000. Easy math tells you you're going to get a lot more buying at $220 than at $3. So that's how we try and layer in our programs. That particular program, the buy-in is as high as maybe $10,000, $11,000. It's as low as $1,000. It's often finding the right spot for a lot of people. Our fishing guides are never going to buy into that. So we have a fishing brochure where for $150 they can have an ad. They can do an ad for 25,000 copies. We're going to pay for the distribution. We're going to get it out for them. For the folks, as you mentioned specifically, events calendar, totally free. Online, we have an events calendar. We have a printed events calendar. I saw one downstairs. Thank you, however they got here. Probably our staff. And what we then do is we promote that digitally. We promote that socially. We try and highlight businesses, try and highlight events, as I mentioned in those e-newsletters. We're trying to segment people off so that we're not talking to people who are only interested in performances and concerts from the folks who really just kind of want to hear about our ag stuff because that's their interest. So we've been trying to segment that out a little bit, staff intensive, so they might get featured on the ag side, maybe more for the fair. Or if it's somebody on the historical side, we have something like the Paddock Mansion. A couple years ago, we joined the New York State Haunted History Trail. That's where you hear about Thompson Park and its vortex sometimes in publications and on news media. Jordan and the folks over at the Paddock Mansion have worked with us in and out of that. They've been featured, and it's really about making sure that our business is capable of handling that and that that's a business they want to pursue, and then being that avenue to get them through that door. The membership in that organization's a couple $1,000s a year. You get listed in the brochures. You get a section about our region in there that gets distributed. All we're asking of those folks say, hey, if this is a business you want to be involved with, please give us your information, and we'll get it to them, and they'll publish it for you.
Legislator Fitzpatrick.
Quick question. Who are these attractive people you're looking for? And do we qualify as a board?
Absolutely. All demographics.
I picked up on that.
Yeah, that's often that's how it happens. We scream and holler at those folks, you got to include us, you got to include us. And they say, okay, we're going to be up in 2 days. And we need people there, we need corn stalks, and we need sweaters. And so I then called the local Chamber of Commerce, it was Clayton, that I'm talking about, and go to the director, and I go, okay, we got their attention, but help. We're going to turn them over to you. You need to call the folks who really were the genius behind that event and unleash them on it because they're going to take it with the enthusiasm and the passion. Our job is just getting them connected. And sometimes it's a scramble. Yes, I'm in a lot of our tourism brochures and magazines and website. I wish I wasn't. But now that I have children, I've been able to do the family fun thing with them. So my wife is not getting any modeling fees, but she does help quite a bit.
Thank you. Any other questions, comments? I would like to make a couple of comments. Having worked in Alexandria Bay for 20 years, I can attest to three things that you said. One is tourism does provide employment for first jobs for young people. Second thing is the tax base on second homes, big for school districts, especially the river districts and the lake. And thirdly, I have 3 teachers and a superintendent that came to the North Country vacationing as children that ended up working in the Bay.
Love that.
Yeah, I mean, that always makes me feel good because they came and wanted to stay as opposed to they were here and went somewhere else. That always makes me feel good. So, any other comments? I'd just like to thank you for your presentation.
Thank you for your time, everybody. I really enjoyed it. Thank you.
Now that the fun's over with, we're on to our regular meeting. I'd like to offer the privilege of the floor to anybody who would like to come forward. Seeing no one coming to the microphone, we'll move on to the minutes of the last meeting. Additions, corrections, deletions. Hearing nothing, they will stand as presented. And I guess we're on to Finance and Rules Committee sponsored resolution.
Board members, if I might, just a hitchhike on the 3 presentations already. Some may know this, some may not, but we had a presentation from the JCIDA Economic Development Group not too long ago, and some of the video you saw was presented here, but it was just announced that with the Jefferson County Economic Development, the New York State Development Council's 2019 winner for Excellence in Marketing was the program you saw snippets of that was put together by Marshall Ware. So Bill, you may know a little bit more about it, but I just recently learned, and I think it's pretty exciting to get that kind of recognition. Yeah, okay. It was good, though. So now we can move on.
Thank you.
Authorizing the vacating of judgment of foreclosure for owners of certain parcels of real property and discontinuance of foreclosure proceedings.
May I have a motion, please? Legislator number 1. Legislator Johnson. Discussion. Hearing none, all in favor? Opposed? Carried.
Authorizing the sale of certain tax foreclosure property in the town of Theresa to Gerald Bartlett and Rosemary Bartlett.
May I have a motion, please? Legislator McBride. Legislator Campbell. Discussion. Legislator Drake.
Yeah, thank you. Just want to take a minute to tell you what it's about. The Bartlett family subdivided some property a long time ago, 30 years ago, probably 10 new homes have come out of it. It's a road. We've owned it for 19 years, I believe, through foreclosure. The Bartletts own the front of the road and the back of the road. In order for them to do any more subdivision, the Town of Theresa Planning Board wants them to own the total road to have for right-of-way. So that's why they came to us and asked to purchase this property. Thank you.
Further discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Carried.
Third resolution this evening is concurring in settlement of tax certiorari proceedings and authorizing refund of taxes in connection therewith. This is regards to Clayton Housing Associates.
Motion, please. Legislator Nebelonic, Legislator Cantwell. Discussion. Hearing none, all in favor? Opposed? Carried.
Approving mortgage tax report.
Motion, please. Legislator McBride. Legislator Johnson. Discussion. Hearing none, all in favor? Opposed? Carried.
Next resolution is setting time and place for public hearing on tentative 2019-2020 Jefferson Community College budget.
Motion, please. Legislator Drake, Legislator Johnson. Discussion. Yes.
Interesting side note discussion that actually we would have to decide at the board meeting next week, but what we'll need to do is not just the location, it's the time of the meeting, and we may have some discussions about what time our July meeting will be, because that took place last year. We were a little conflicted because there was the big event in the park, the annual 4th of July concert and celebration, and so in that case, I think we switched days. This time maybe we just moved things up an hour or two early, but whatever we decide, right now this calls for 6 o'clock because it is 6 o'clock. We're thinking maybe it's a 5 o'clock board meeting, but there'll be this little note once we've approved moving forward to think about the time of the meeting.
Further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor? Opposed? Carried.
Authorizing appointments to the Jefferson Lewis Workforce Development Board.
Motion, please. Legislator Fitzpatrick, Legislator McBride. Discussion. Hearing none, all in favor? Opposed? Carried.
Authorizing agreements for provision of mental hygiene services.
Motion, please. Legislator Cantwell, Legislator Johnson. Discussion. Hearing none, all in favor? Opposed? Carried.
Next is accepting funding for New York State Health Building Healthy Communities Conference Scholarships and amending the 2019 county budget in relation thereto.
I have a motion, please. Legislator McBride. Legislator Drake. Discussion. Hearing none, all in favor? Opposed? Carried.
Accepting donation on behalf of the Department of Social Services and amending the 2019 county budget.
Motion, please. Legislator Johnson. Legislator Drake. Discussion. Hearing none, all in favor? Opposed? Carried. Moving on to the General Services Committee-sponsored resolutions.
We are amending the 2019 county budget in relation to the probation department vehicle.
Motion, please. Legislator Cantwell. Legislator McBride. Discussion. Hearing none, all in favor? Opposed? Carried.
Authorizing fiscal year 2018 Operation Stone Garden Grant Agreement, amending the 2019 county budget in relation thereto.
Motion, please. Legislator Fitzpatrick. Legislator Nebelonic. Discussion. Hearing none, all in favor? Opposed? Carried.
Yes, they were.
Okay, there are a few informational items attached. Is there anything further? Well, there's nothing further for the committee. At this time, I would entertain a motion to go into an executive session for the purpose of negotiations. Union, labor negotiations. Motion, please. Legislator Johnson, Legislator Drake. No discussion. All in favor? Okay, we're adjourned to, not adjourned, but we're in executive session.